it is your fault that 100,000 Years is going to rank so low on this list. So you have only yourself to blame.
Well, that's good because that long I would take a piss break during.
You're all terrible human beings. You all hate America.
I'm not talking about the regular version. I'm just talking about the Alive version because
yes, I know, and I'm saying you all hate America.
I like it sometimes.
You could take or leave America, but gotta take piss breaks.
I would always take trips to the bathroom, and that's whenever Peter Chris was saying Beth, I'd go to the bathroom.
But hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Lipstick Panel, our weekly ranking show hosted by Lipstick, the rock band. I'm Greg, the lead singer.
I'm Steve, the bassist.
I'm Jake, the lead guitarist.
And today on the Lipstick Panel, we are ranking the songs on Kiss Alive. Originally, we were only going to rank the songs on each of the studio albums, but every single guest told Steve he needed to listen to Kiss Alive, and so that is why we're listening to it, so that Steve can fully experience the album that brought in many fans into the Kiss Army. Today we have an amazing guest, a true expert in all things Kiss. He is the host of the excellent podcast Kiss My Kollectibles and has been in a Kiss tribute band or two in his time, so this guy knows his stuff. Mr. Andrew Sgmbatti, welcome.
I almost don't need to say anything else. I could just bow out after that. After that intro, there's nothing else that I could say to add to that. So I'm going to hire you as my hype man from
dude,
I
will hype up. You wanted the best. You got the best. The hottest drummer in the land, Andrew.
Yeah,
the hottest podcast in the land.
So he's here.
The hottest podcast about Kiss action figures and rare music videos from the Elder.
Hey, that's funny that you mentioned that because every so often I see someone that reposts about that and they always try to get rid of my watermark. And I have to tell people that I don't own the video to I was just instrumental in releasing it. And I just want people to know that.
You did a public service to the world by releasing that video, sir. As someone who loves The Elder more than any other Kiss album, I say thank you, good sir.
It was kind of cool because when we figured out that was even still in existence, we purchased it, and to kind of protect our investment, we released an inferior quality version of that video so everyone could see it. But it was very cool to see, and it was cool to see the non-Kiss audience, and I thought they were waiting for like a Double Mint commercial or something while they were waiting for Kiss to go. Because those people I never saw in the audience of a Kiss show, except for one. There's a very famous fan in the audience. His name is, unfortunately this is his name, but everybody calls him Fat Vinny. But he's in the audience of that clip. Shot on Halloween weekend, 1981. So yeah, total savant for Kiss.
Yeah, it's really weird how the Kiss community has famous fans, but it's a thing, and you're one of them. You're, I guess, a colonel in the Kiss Army? Maybe captain or general. I
know. Sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes I feel like Commander Kiss. Other times I feel like Janitor Kiss. I mean, it just depends on the day.
It's a really rock and roll thing. It's just like a strict hierarchy of fans with a lot of militarism and very rock and roll.
No, I'm just that guy that trolls Facebook all day that just corrects people's Kiss facts because that's really all I do.
I would have no experience with that, Andrew. What are you talking about? Said Greg months after that article came out because we recorded in advance.
I just can't. When I see things like that, I don't have all the knowledge. I just have the best resources. So if I see something and I'm like, you know what, I don't think that's what happened, then I kind of look back and I find out what actually happened. So I'm that guy. So I'm sure many people are like, well, look at that guy, what an ass. But I'm just, I just want people to know.
You're just against fake news. You're a patriot.
Correct.
So let's briefly go around the panel and discuss our brief history with Kiss Alive and our personal experiences with it. And let's, get our resident expert, Andrew, to go first, talking about just, Kiss Alive briefly and your thoughts on it overall.
The funny thing about Kiss Alive is, at first listen, I didn't like Kiss Alive. Not because I wasn't a Kiss fan at the time, but because at the time that I heard Kiss Alive, most of my favorite songs were coming off of Alive 2 and later albums. I kind of went back to listen to Kiss Alive. So at first, I was just watching, the famous Houston 77 shows and then listening to Alive 2 as a supplement. So looking at songs like Parasite and She, Rock Bottom, Got to Choose, even Nothing to Lose. These are songs that weren't in my Kiss repertoire at first. So Kiss Alive originally got ignored, funny enough. And then once I kind of came back around and started picking up anything and everything Kiss, I went back to Kiss Alive, and it surpasses every Kiss Live album, in my opinion. Just looking at that back cover, looking at that famous shot at Cobo Hall that's been argued so many times that's not really a Kiss show. It's another show at Cobo Hall. You just see that and you're like, wow, this is what a Kiss concert looked like. And then you look at the book that it came with, you've seen all those cool live photos. It really is a souvenir as to what a Kiss show was back in the 70s. And that's kind of what they were going for. So once I kind of got rid of all like the preconceived notions and all the hoopla, when I sat down listening to Kiss Live from beginning to end, it's so good, and it's what a concert should sound like. Now, I know we can get into if there are session players, if people recorded in the studio, and blah, blah, blah. I choose to ignore that because sonically it sounds good, and it's what I would want a Kiss concert to sound like. I don't want to hear mistakes. I don't want to hear this and that. I would rather them go in and fix a broken string, an out-of-tune guitar, an off-key vocal. So for me, this is the best representation of a Kiss concert at that time. And, funny enough, if you listen to the bootlegs that were kind of around the time Kiss Live was released and recorded, they don't sound all that different. Maybe a little sloppier, but they don't really sound all that different. So for me, for any fan, I think this is the quintessential live Kiss album, or even the quintessential Kiss album. I'd rank it slightly below Rock and Roll Over just because I love the songs on Rock and Roll Over. So if someone says they never heard Kiss, I want them to listen to Kiss Alive.
All right, let's move on to Jake. Your experience with Kiss Alive.
For a long time, I never really heard this album. But when I first heard it, I was like, this is really raw. This is a raw live album. And like he said, I wouldn't really care about the mistakes or the overdubbing or whatever was going on it. I respect that, and it sounds pretty good for what it is since I've heard it.
How about you, Stephen Smith?
Well, prior to listening to this album this week, I had, as I've said before, seen Detroit Rock City, which features a studio recording of Kiss set to random concert footage. So, basically the same thing.
Do you know the story behind that recording from Detroit Rock City?
No.
Okay, I'll bore you with a quick story about that, because what's cool about that session is Kiss actually went in to re-record Detroit Rock City for the Detroit Rock City movie. It was supposed to be on the soundtrack, but ultimately the 1976 studio version ended up on the soundtrack, and the newly recorded version ended up in the movie. I guess it was for rights and licensing purposes. But what was really cool about that session is that was the very last time that Ace, Peter, Gene, and Paul were actually in the studio together recording.
Fun fact for the kids out there.
Fun fact. Full of them.
So other than Detroit Rock City, what was your experience with Kiss Alive, Steve?
I listened to it this week.
All right, so that is Steve's history with Kiss Alive.
Not a long one.
My history with Kiss Alive is I think it's good. I'm not super big on live albums overall. It's not my favorite Kiss live album. I think Kiss Unplugged is leaps and bounds better than Kiss Alive, but I'd say it's a solid number 2. I'm not sure if it's better than the 2 Thin Lizzy live albums, but it's in my top 5 of live albums. It's just where it ranks next to Live and Dangerous and Life Live that's where it gets tricky. It depends on my mood. But still a great album, and probably my favorite of the conventional Kiss live albums, although sometimes Alive 3 usurps it, depending on my mood. So, gentlemen, are you ready to go into the ranking of this panel, which was decided by Steve, Jake, and myself, because Andrew, being a rock and roll rebel, decided not to rank anything?
Actually, in all seriousness, I was just away most of yesterday, And I would just see the messages come through, and I was like, yeah, I'll be there on time. And I just didn't realize I had to do that. But just because I've been so busy. But no, I'll be able to participate because I could pull Kiss stuff out of my butt at any time.
Well, we actually have a bunch of ties on our list with this panel, so you will be the deciding tiebreaker vote.
Okay.
So, but coming in at last place on this ranking of Kiss Alive, voted as the worst song on perhaps the best Kiss album, Firehouse.
I'm gonna agree on that just because it's kind of boring after Hotter Than Hell.
Yeah, it's more fun when you're actually at the show and you see Paul in the fire helmet and Gene spitting the fire. But just as recording, just sonically, it does kind of drag. It's an alright song. You know, as many a Kiss fan, I have the Stockholm Syndrome and have learned to love it because I've heard it so many times. Huh. But it's definitely, I think, the weakest song on the album.
I'm going to agree with you there.
Yeah.
And I guess everybody else there, too.
Yep.
It's not my weakest, but it was pretty close to the bottom for me.
Yeah, it was down there.
Yeah, I think the problem with this one is that there's not a ton to say about it, especially like just from the sonic level where you're just putting on the record, listening to the CD or whatever, and you don't see the visuals that go with it. This is one where the visuals really go hand in hand, and when you don't have that, it doesn't work as well. So if this is your souvenir from a live concert in the 70s, and you remember you have those visuals in your head of like, oh yeah, I remember when they did that, it probably pops a bit more. But if you're just listening to it and haven't seen that happen before, it's probably not going to do as much for you.
I'm going to agree with you there. Totally. And I was actually going to say that, so good call out.
All right. Well, let's just burn on through and move on to the next one on our list. Actually, we've got a tiebreaker. So, Andrew, this is our first tiebreaker that you're going to decide between.
Cool.
Which Kiss Alive performance is better? She or Nothing to Lose?
Ooh, that's a good one because I think Nothing to Lose really became a live staple towards the Rock and Roll Over tour because you had those cool lead vocal parts switching off between Gene and Paul. No, Gene and... I don't know who did those harmonies. I think, well, Gene was still singing the lead, and then there were those cool harmony parts, those call and answer things by Paul and Peter. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to vote for She here, like She being better than Nothing to Lose. She being better than Nothing to Lose in this scenario because the Nothing to Lose version on the live, I think, is weaker than what Nothing to Lose became live ultimately in 77.
Yeah, I agreed with you. I voted She the highest of this panel, and the reason I voted for that is because they took the outro from Let Me Know, which was the best part of that song, and then just stuck it onto She. And so just that outro is so good is why I rank She higher. Because as a song, She is, it's all right if you like songs, written by child molesters. I'm a Gary Glitter fan myself. But, I rank it a bit lower just sonically. Although it's a fun riff to play. Stephen Cornell, he wrote a fun riff.
So, am I parsing this correctly that She was the end of the set, the end of disc 1 was the end of a set, or did they play the whole show straight through?
They played the whole show straight through, and this Kiss Alive is structured after a concert, sort of, but there are other things that were added into the Kiss Alive package that either were never played live on a consistent standpoint, or only played live for the purpose of the recording of Kiss Alive.
Mm. Okay.
But actually, here's a fun fact, another Kiss fun fact. If you listen to the 2006 Kiss Alive box set, which has Kiss Alive 1, 2, 3, and the Millennium Concert, if you listen to that box set, Kiss Alive and Kiss Alive 2 have both been edited down. Well, not edited down. They've been mixed for enjoyment through one disc and no fade-outs.
Mm.
Yeah, that is the version that I have in my car. I have, of course, multiple copies of Kiss Alive because, I've drunk enough of the Kool-Aid to re-buy that album multiple times. But I mainly got it for that Millennium Concert with, in my opinion, the true Alive 4. The Symphony Concert's fine, but I think that one feels more like a true Alive 4 and like a true completion of that saga for me.
I agree with you.
So do you gentlemen have any comments on Nothing to Lose and She?
I always thought She was dragging its feet more than Nothing to Lose.
Yeah.
For me. It wasn't as sonic. Not as much punch.
Yep. And I was going into it assuming that they had a set break at some point, so She, as the song before set break, would have been a terrible choice. Turns out I'm misinformed, but still, it was kind of a slow, draggy song, and the cymbals on much of this album were really, really bad sounding. Like they've got that, nowadays you'd call it SoundCloud compression, kind of swishiness to them.
I think that was a lot of it, especially when we get over to 100,000 Years. They had that flange. So
Yeah.
maybe they left the flange on.
Yeah.
What the flange is that?
All right, so speaking of 100,000 Years, that leads us to our next tiebreaker. So just for the record on this panel, I voted 100,000 Years very high, and the rest of you just hate America for ranking it so low.
Yep.
So we have a tie between 100,000 Years and Let Me Go Rock and Roll.
Ooh.
I don't think that's too hard of a decision, honestly.
Well,
It is.
It's a harder decision if you love America like I do, like you unpatriotic savages.
I don't know. I really just don't like long, draggy drum solos.
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to like Ginger Baker, his solos dragged on, and this kind of got me feeling like this was like a Cream drum solo.
Ooh, harsh.
So yeah,
Man,
That was
I
me.
loved it. This is my Touch Tunes cheat code when I'm going out and I only have $1 and I want to make sure I get the most out of that dollar on the jukebox. A live version of 100,000 Years, that's like 12 minutes of music for $1. So I made sure to get my money's worth with that, and I love it. I mean, Peter is my favorite member of the band on a musical level.
What?
I love Peter. Yeah. I'm that guy. I love my favorite of the solo albums is the Peter Criss 78 solo album. I love Peter's solo stuff. I've realized, I sort of had an epiphany the other day about why I like Kiss so much, is that they work for me on a bunch of different levels. The Beatles are my favorite band, but I also like kind of heavier, glammy stuff. So you've got the heavy, glammy Beatles thing, plus I love jazz and swing, big band kind of stuff, which is what Peter brought to the band. So it's like combining the Beatles, glam, and swing. And that is a very specific market of Greg. So... I love Peter Criss. He's my favorite vocalist in the band. I love Peter's songs. I'm that guy.
Wow.
So you ranked the drum solo high.
I did rank the drum solo high because I'm a Peter dude. I jam to it. I love it. I think it's a great solo. I think it's one of the great rock drum solos. When I talk about Kiss Alive with a lot of people, depending on the person, that'll be one of the first things they'll bring up is, man, that drum solo from 100,000 Years. People bring that up, like Cal Hebert, when we did the first episode, he brought up the drum solo on 100,000 Years and talked about how great it was. So some people really love that solo. I'm one of them. Clearly you America haters aren't.
Look, I'm just not a big fan of that flangers on drums thing. It does just make the drums sound bad.
Agreed.
Hey man, there's flangers on drums on a Lipstick record, thank you.
On a studio record, to kind of add a different sound palette. I mean,
Yeah, like
okay,
you-
so Peter Criss kind of peaked as far as drum solos go on this era of the band. But you get down to later times, like the guy is basically, he almost sounds like he's just at Guitar Center just testing stuff out. And I'm like, man, I remember, listen, I love this drum solo. But again, I don't need the whole Paul thing, and I don't need the whole Peter thing. And just remember too, there's a bass solo that was edited out of this too. So just imagine, I'm at a concert, hear a bass solo, which, nothing against that, I just don't like solos. I want to hear songs. I hear the bass solo, then I hear part of a song, then I hear a drum solo, then I hear Paul yelling at me. And then I hear the song again, and I'm like, when is this song going to end? Because I just want to know.
See, I think it's great. I fully disagree. I think Paul is getting the crowd pumped up. I think it's great. You know, when you see live videos of this song, I just think it's awesome. I wholly disagree. I'm guessing you're going to put Let Me Go Rock and Roll as being this in the tiebreaker. I'm just assuming. Just for
I
that
don't
jam
know.
at the end.
I don't. Well, I like that, but I like the shorter version of "Let Me Go Rock and Roll" that they started playing on the Destroyer tour. I like that. I feel like the energy in there is you almost can't surpass the energy in that shorter version. So it's a tough one for me. It's a tough one. I'm gonna, just because I like the song 100,000 Years, I'm gonna rate that one a little higher. So yes, I still like America.
All right, thank you. America, USA, USA, USA. Because every time is a kissin' time, USA. All right.
Oh man.
So what's funny about this ranking is Steve actually ranked "Let Me Go Rock and Roll" pretty low. On
Second
his
from
list.
the bottom, only above 100,000 years.
But according to our Hotter Than Hell episode, he liked "Let Me Go Rock and Roll" quite a bit. So, Steve, do you want to defend yourself?
I think just something about this particular version of it really emphasized that it was a 12-bar blues song to me, and I can't do the 12-bar blues. I'm just done with that.
Yeah, Steve hates Southern America.
You guys don't have real weather. Where's the snow?
Ugh, you want some?
Yes, I
thanks.
do. I live in Nashville now.
No, I moved from Cleveland for a reason. I don't miss the snow. All right, coming up next on our list. This one isn't a tiebreaker. This was decided decisively by this panel. Got to Choose coming in next.
I wholeheartedly disagree with all of you, and all of you actually hate America.
All right, so let's see. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 from the bottom. So there's 10 songs better on Alive, according to us. I mean, Andrew, you have no one to blame but yourself for it being this low.
No, I know. I completely agree. I'm not following the rules, but this is my favorite song off the album. This song is one of my favorite Kiss songs of all time. And I remember when they started doing it in 2004 on the Rock the Nation tour, and I was like, man, this is just... I was so happy that I was able to see Kiss do this song, because they really hadn't done it. They did it on this Alive tour, and then they didn't start doing it again until some of their, I guess, greatest hits appearances after Alive 3, like the Foundations Forum. They played a show in Gibson, Nashville. They did some festivals in South America. They hadn't done this song in almost 20 years. And even when the band got back together in 96, they weren't doing it then. So it was a long road waiting for them to do this song. And they finally did it in 2004 on the Rock the Nation tour. And I couldn't have been happier. I love this song.
Now, did they do it at the show in Cleveland in 2004?
I don't know. I didn't live here in 2004. I originally from New Jersey. So when I saw them 4 times on the Rock the Nation tour in that summer. And all 4 times they did it. And when I saw them in Japan 2 years later, they did it then too.
Nice. Yep, that 2004 Rock the Nation, that was my first ever concert. So seeing Kiss was
Really?
what opened up the rabbit hole of music for me. I don't remember if they did Got to Choose, but I don't remember falling asleep at the show, so I don't think that they did it. Oh no, I'm
Really? Man.
I'm just kidding. It's all right. It's a song I used to really hate. It was always a skip button song for me, but I've come to appreciate it over the years, so I like it now. But this one for a long time was a quick skip.
So here's some quick facts about your show. July 6, 2004, Rock the Nation tour, Cleveland, Ohio.
I like how
Blossom-
you know the date of it.
Blossom Music Center. Paul and Gene didn't fly because, as you know, Blossom is kind of small.
Right, yeah.
There were no instant live CDs available at this show. Some markets, they just didn't have those available due to some Live Nation contract.
Oh, no, I'm aware of that because I would have loved to have a souvenir of my first ever concert, the thing that led me on my rock and roll journey. And like, nope, you can't hear this show.
They didn't have one at one of mine either. I saw them at PNC Bank Arts Center July 20th. They didn't have instant live CDs there either, but they had them at other shows that I went to. And they did perform Got to Choose at this show. They also performed, the other rare songs that they performed were I Stole Your Love and Christine 16. So the set list was evolving at this point. So I would have loved to have gotten I Stole Your Love at this point. I got Psycho Circus when I saw them.
Yeah, I did not get Psycho Circus. I remember that distinctly. But it was a great show. It obviously turned me into a Kiss fan, so it did the job. So I loved it. But as far as got to choose, rest of the panel,
C plus.
C plus.
C plus.
Dang.
I think it's an okay song, but I just would have liked to see it much later in the CD, where it was just in that order. It felt like kind of a drop in energy, and they went right to a filler song 3 songs in, which just didn't seem like a good set order.
Well, remember, they were all quote-unquote filler songs for Kiss at this point because they had no hits.
Eh.
Yeah, so which filler song is better at that point?
I mean, I think, they were 3 albums in, though, so they still sort of knew which of their songs their fans would respond to better. They knew which of their songs were just, like, better songs.
I mean, well, maybe the fans responded better to Got to Choose. Maybe that was the one they're like, yeah, I dig this.
It's possible.
I just think it was showing off a lot of their musical abilities. You have all those harmonies in the song, and for a band that had no hits, had to showcase themselves somehow. You could only blow stuff up for so long, but you listen to the song, and the song is kind of musical. Like, you hear Deuce, it's very plodding. Strutter's kind of music. You have that really great walking bass line that I'm sure we'll touch on later. But this song, you hear that, you're like, oh, that's musical. I like that. Maybe that's why. Who knows?
You know what it's called when you have a song that's just there to showcase your technical talents and you play that live? It's called filler.
Okay, all right. Well, I love Got to Choose.
Oh,
I've always
man.
loved Got to Choose.
Did it get darker in here? Because I'm feeling a lot of shade.
You're not the first. You're not the first to have the same view on Got to Choose. I've always had to defend this song, and I don't know why I love it, but I do. And the only version that's better than the version on Kiss Alive is the version that was left off the unplugged record, but put on the 2001 box set.
Yeah, that was a good version. I'm fine with that version. I don't know, just something about this song, it just doesn't fully click with me.
Uh-huh.
I get it. I understand why it's good to a lot of people, but it's I think just a little bit too slow for me, and I don't get locked into the groove of it. I think that is the main thing with it, is that I'm not locked in that groove the way some people are.
I see.
But coming up next, another song from the Hotter Than Hell album, the title track, Hotter Than Hell, the Kiss Alive version. I thought this is one of the songs where there was a vast improvement over the studio version. Like, this is pretty kick-ass. I'm down with this track. This is pretty good.
Yeah, it's my favorite solo of Ace ever. And I cry to think that the murkiness of the studio version of Hotter Than Hell is all we're ever going to have to showcase that in a studio setting. Kiss went back and re-recorded a bunch of songs in 2008, but obviously it was Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer in the studio. Nothing against them, love them. So it was Tommy copying what Ace had played before, but I was finally able to hear it with really great clarity. But listening to the Kiss Alive version is always cool. I love that end solo. Nothing better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and once again, my main gripe with Hotter Than Hell, the song, is that the lyrics to Rip and Destroy are better. That's always the thing that upsets me. It's like, the fake robot Kiss had better lyrics with this song.
I want you to, after we're done, I want you to go listen to All Right Now by Free, because that's what this song is.
No, I'm familiar with it. I went to a Bad Company tribute last night, and they played All Right Now. So I'm very familiar with the song. I've listened to classic rock radio before, Andrew.
No, but a lot of people don't know that you could sing one of them to the other. Like, as soon as that chorus comes in, you could just sing All Right Now.
There's
you
only
could
so
sing
many chords.
All Right Now to Hotter Than Hell, and Hotter Than Hell to All Right Now.
Hey, A, E, and G are great.
They're pretty good chords.
You just want to have an A chord that just cracks your ribs. You know what I'm saying, Andrew?
I agree. I have no idea what you're talking about because I'm a drummer.
What, you never watched it stream close up?
No, of course I have, to the point of delusion almost, but still, for some reason, musical connotations never stuck with me. Someone's like, oh, play a G. I'm like, huh? I mean, I could sing in key, but it was never about learning the notes for me. It was about, just playing drums.
Any other comments on Hotter Than Hell before we move on?
I found it interesting listening in context of the album that, like, this song was one of the ones that was more clearly composited from different source material than the ones around it. Like, when this one flipped over, it was like, wow, that's a That's a very different concert, and possibly even different post-concert cleanup and punch-ins.
Well, it was recorded at 3 different shows.
All right, yeah. I mean, I went into this knowing that they had taken the best of the shows that they'd gotten live, and then they touched it up post in the studio. I'm like, whatever, that's fine. It was a lot less seamless than I had anticipated. I think the technology and the skill set involved in recording live albums in this manner has improved since then, so that a modern live album that is the same structure is going to sound a lot more seamless.
I think that's just proof of the times with it, I guess.
Yeah.
Where if you were a kid in the 70s, you probably wouldn't have noticed a thing. You would have been like, "This is sick," but because you have a really strong musical ear and
Right.
are used to modern live recordings, you're like, "Oh, this is clearly not the same show."
Right.
Well, I might disagree with you there, just because if you listen to the great bootleg King Biscuit Flower Hour, which is a bootleg now, but it was actually a radio broadcast back in 1975. King Biscuit Flower Hour had many, many, many bands that played across many, many different FM platforms. But they did air a part of a Kiss show, which was, funny enough, from Music Hall here in Cleveland, June 21st, 1975. And it was broadcast in November of 1975, obviously after Kiss Alive came out. Kiss Alive came out September 10th, 75. Anyway, why am I mentioning this? Because Hotter Than Hell from the King Biscuit Flower Hour sounds very similar to the Hotter Than Hell that ended up on Kiss Alive, ultimately. So if you don't have it, it's a really good supplement to listen to Kiss Alive and then listen to King Biscuit Flower Hour. It's only 5 songs. Hotter Than Hell, Firehouse, Black Diamond, Let Me Know, and Rock and Roll Night.
And of course, that Rock and Roll Night is almost definitely the one that ended up on Kiss Alive.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with you.
Like that's definitely the Cleveland one. So hey, go hometown. But next up on our list, Watching You, or as Steve likes to call it, Watching Dudes.
Watching Dudes. Question heteronormativity.
So yeah, this one is a song that I think works much better live than in the studio. Granted, that's probably because the studio album it was on was Hotter Than Hell, and that was a very poorly recorded album that sounded like hot garbage.
Yeah.
I think a Live 3 version of this is better, personally. But it's still good. But I think a Live 3 is better. And here it's ranked middle of the road from this panel, and that seems pretty fair for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys there.
I felt a little uncomfortable while listening to most of this album, because I was like, where are all the apostrophes? And then it flipped over to Watching You, and I was like, okay, all right, that's the Kiss that I'm familiar with. Take that, the letter G.
Yeah, coming home, watching you. Rock and roll all night.
Oh, and don't even get me started on the spelling of the word night. N-I-T-E.
They hate the letter G.
They hate the letter G. It's Neil Bogart. Just blame Neil Bogart.
I blame him for... Actually, I don't blame him for anything. He's great. All of the decisions he made for Kiss were great. Like, guys, cover Kiss in time. Fantastic. Guys, I have a great idea. Instead of sounding like shit, what if we have good production on this album? Neil, you're a genius.
Yeah, I think Dress to Kill sounds great. My opinion.
All right, so next up on our list, a song that Steve seemed really disappointed in the live version of, Black Diamond.
Yeah.
Steve, tell me your sad story.
I really dug the studio version of this one. Like, Kiss just they're not really my thing. It's like even as like just the genre that they do. I'm gonna stutter and mumble a whole bunch here. Kiss isn't my thing. They don't do my preferred form of music. They do what they do pretty well. But the one thing that really stuck out to me on Kiss 1 was the Black Diamond with the slowing down of the tape. And it got super doom metal, which I'm really into. And so I was kind of intrigued about that, knowing that they did that with tape in the studio version. I was like, do they try to replicate that somehow in the live version? And they just didn't. So it was a real bummer for me.
It's like when you find out Santa Claus isn't real or that Kiss isn't a doom metal band. Your heart's broken and you don't know how to feel. I still think this is a great live version. It has more energy than the studio version, and once again, a Peter lead vocal. So obviously, I love it because Peter's my dude.
First time I heard this song was on the Midnight Special when I watched it. That was a really cool version.
Hell yes.
Dude, I love that you're like 28 and you're just like, yeah, I'm watching the Midnight Special from 76.
Well, yeah, my aunt and uncle had all the DVDs.
I have the DVDs. Do you want to borrow some of them? I have so many of them.
I think this was the only song they did it on that show. And
No,
Incorrect.
I thought they did more than that.
well, this is the only one that was on that DVD that I watched.
It is the only one on the DVD. I could have sworn they had more songs on there, but I'm not going to argue.
Man,
with
when I
Andrew.
saw that was killer.
Do you want me to sprout off some? You want me to throw some knowledge?
I will let you
Yes,
throw some
please.
knowledge.
I want some knowledge.
Basically, I just view you as like the Kissopedia, where just like, Andrew, what did Kiss do on July 12th, 1988? Well, Paul began the day with a ham sandwich and some oats. Then
Toasties.
Then he was reading Chaucer's Canterbury Tales and then decided to write Time Traveler.
I love Time Traveler.
Time Traveler's great.
Yeah. So, Midnight Special, April 1st, 1975. They shot in Burbank, California. They performed Deuce, She, Black Diamond, which aired, and they performed Come On and Love Me, which has never been aired and is said to have been lost. So we may never see Come On and Love Me from that show. But what's cool about this, here's cool. Here's what's cool and here's what's not cool. What's cool about this is you're seeing Kiss in their infancy. When the bomb goes off in the beginning of Deuce, you see Gene kind of fall over, almost. Then he regains himself. When Kiss released Deuce and Black Diamond on Kissology Volume 1 back in 2007, they decided that 2006, I'm sorry, they decided that they were not going to hunt down the mint version that was in the Midnight Special archives. They just released a subpar black and white version. So, if you watch those Midnight Special DVDs, that's the only place where you can get a perfect quality color version of Black Diamond. I don't know if they also have She and Deuce in their archives. They've never released those, but Kiss has. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, perhaps someday they will find their way to the world like those lost Doctor Who episodes from 1964. Dare to Dream.
Who knows?
Who recorded all this Kiss over these Doctor Who episodes? That's not what a Dalek looks like at all.
Oh man, Ray would be furious if that's what happened. Like, we just need some space for these Kiss live recordings. I guess we'll just get rid of these old Doctor Who episodes. Who cares about those?
Right?
First birthday, let's record Kiss. Our wedding, let's record Vinnie Vincent.
Well, coming up next on this list is Come On and Love Me, which Steve ranked pretty high. So Steve seemed to enjoy this one quite a bit.
Yeah, this one had some really good melodic and chord choices. A lot of it, a lot of what they're doing seems to follows the conventions of the genre that they're in, and this one I think was one that was just much more creative and drifted off into its own thing, and that happened to align with a lot of my melodic choices. I don't remember if I noticed this when listening to the studio version, but in the live version, it really stuck out. I was like, yeah, this song's catchy.
I mean, I think you ranked it pretty high because that one won unanimously amongst the panel on the Dress to Kill episode. So, I mean, it's a great song. I like it quite a bit. But, oh, yeah, you only gave it a 6 out of 10.
Oh, yeah, I ranked that at like 4th.
Yeah, but I guess you like it live a lot better, so Kiss Alive is awakening the songs for you.
Yeah.
I love this song, and I'm just going to say one thing about it. Come on and love me!
And, yeah, it's that intro. Just Paul doesn't even need to intro it. He just shouts, "Come on and love me," and the song starts.
I love this song. They did this one again briefly on the Rock the Nation tour, but they also did it briefly on the reunion tour in '96. And I actually saw them play this one. The four original guys in makeup play this one together in '96. So this was very cool to see, and I kind of wish they did this one a little bit more, in my opinion.
Yeah, this one I think sticks out as like kind of one of the underrated Kiss songs, where just the studio version's really good and the live version is really good, and it doesn't get as much live love as some of the other staples. So I think it's great. So coming up next on our list, we're going to be coming up to a tiebreaker after this.
Okay.
But next up on our list, the Alive version of Strutter
Huh.
Yeah,
Seems a little low.
I ended up ranking this the lowest of the panel, and the reason for that is I think the studio version is so much better than the live version. I think the live version is really good, but I think it might be a little bit too gritty, raw, and aggressive, which normally is a good thing, but it loses a little bit of the swagger and swing that the original studio version had. And so while the energy is great in a live setting, when I'm going to listen to a version of Strutter, that original studio version is so good that this live version can't help but, fall in second place for me. That said, it's one of my favorite songs on Alive as an album, but that's because I like the song so much. So it's in a weird position for me.
I love this version on Kiss Alive. I think it's the perfect follow-up to Deuce, but my favorite version of Strutter is the single version from 1978, which is different than what ended up on Double Platinum as Strutter 78. So I love the single version from 1978.
I don't even know what that
freaking
is.
Oh my god, it's so awesome. So you hear it's basically Strutter 78, but kind of remixed and redone a little bit. Different little drum parts here and there. It's so cool. It's available on the Casablanca Years box set. You can just find it on YouTube, or you could just buy the single, the 45. It's so cool. It's my favorite version of the song, hands down.
All right, so Strutter 78 single version, not the one on Double Platinum.
Correct. I mean, they're very similar, but the single version, for me, just blows it away.
Yeah, I did not even know that existed. And I consider myself a guy who knows a decent deal about Kiss. Like, I don't memorize the concert dates, but I'm a song guy, and I know the songs pretty well. So this is fascinating to me that I didn't even know this thing existed.
I'm going to send it to our group chat right now, so that way when we're done, you can listen and your mind can be blown.
I mean,
or maybe not.
I mean, I'm pretty excited for it. I love Strutter. It's one of my favorite Kiss songs.
Same.
But now we're coming up to a 4-way tie for second place.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, these 4 songs got tied for second place. And we have Rock Bottom, Cold Gin, which I kind of understand why those two ended up being tied. Rock and Roll All Night and Parasite are all tied for second place. Now, I think a big reason why those songs are tied, I think Cold Gin and Rock Bottom, the tie there comes down to which version you consider the banter to be a part of. Do you consider the Cold Gin banter to be the end of Rock Bottom or the beginning of Cold Gin? Is, I think, where there's disagreement amongst the three of us who did the votes on the panel.
Right.
Me, with Rock and Roll All Night, I think that is the rock and roll national anthem and best song on Alive, period. It is, the anthem. It's the theme song for Kiss. It's the theme song for rock and roll, and this is the definitive version. The guitar solo in it, makes it climb to new heights that the studio version just didn't reach. It was recorded in my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, this version. So there's a lot of magic in this recording, and it's truly what helped catapult Kiss was this version of that song. And so to me, it is the most encompassing of Kiss Alive. But also, Parasite's got a sweet riff. Mm-hmm. So we've got these 4 tied. Before we get into Andrew's tie-breaking vote, I want to hear some defense of your decisions, Steve and Jake.
It's going to be tough.
Jake, go ahead.
Well, Rock Bottom has probably one of my favorite intros to any song I've ever heard. I love the Paul and Ace intro to that song. And when I heard Ace was playing a double neck on it, I loved it even more. I mean, the rest of the song I feel is kind of, average Kiss. But that intro just makes that song as great as it is. So I'm probably going to choose that one over all of these, even over Cold Gin. As much as I like Cold Gin, I think Rock Bottom does a better job for me. And Rock and Roll All Night, I've heard it a million times. It's kind of,
So I think
hard to get excited about, right?
But the problem with that is that, okay, we've all overheard it as musicians who've gigged a lot, and you overhear that song But there's a reason why that song gets played so much, because
Yeah.
it is so good. Like, just because we're burnt out on it, I don't think dilutes the quality
Right.
of how good that is. Like
Like
you've
the
heard
average fan.
right? To
it's
the average
different,
fan,
right.
but yeah, we've all heard it a million times, but that doesn't mean it's any less great. It's just
Right.
you've heard a song 10,000 times, you're going to get sick of it at a certain point.
Right.
Right.
All right, so Steve, your case to the judge of Mr. Andrew.
All right. Well, okay. So I put Rock Bottom as the very top of my list. Mostly, like, I've found the song pretty forgettable, but it was all that banter. The Cold Gin banter is the high point of this album in my mind. So, like, because of the banter, Rock Bottom was my favorite on this particular CD version of it. And then because the banter's the best part of Cold Gin, when Cold Gin started playing, I'm like, all right, okay, I mean, sure, let's put this somewhere in the middle. I put Rock and Roll All Night pretty high because, yeah, it's the definitive version. This is what the song Rock and Roll All Night is supposed to sound like. So, yeah, it's pretty good. And then Parasite just has a great riff.
All right, so Andrew, you are the judge, jury, and executioner. Where do you rank
Okay.
these four?
Okay, so we're ranking Parasite in the top because I can go without Rock Bottom, Cold Gin, and Rock and Roll Night. They're all three in a row. After Black Diamond, I'm kind of like, well, man, I like Rock Bottom. I like Cold Gin. I like Rock and Roll All Night. But I love Parasite. I'll never get sick of that song. Just hearing that riff, I love the riff on Parasite. That shows you how great Ace was at one time. So yeah, Parasite and all the other ones, I don't know, just I could take them or leave them.
So-
Especially Rock and Roll Night. I mean, I understand what you're saying about Rock and Roll Night, but if I never hear Rock and Roll Night again, it'll still be too soon.
Okay, so all right, but as judge, jury, and executioner, you've got Parasite as the best. Between
Yeah.
Rock and Roll All Night, Cold Gin, and Rock Bottom, which one of those three is the best?
Out of Cold Gin, okay, probably Rock Bottom.
Okay. Just so we can have a very official ranking for this
Okay.
very loose
Yeah.
internet show that no one cares about.
Yeah, I mean, I like the intro to Rock Bottom more than anything. I would have liked to have seen them open with that. There's rumors and there are newspaper articles saying that Kiss actually did open shows in 1975 with Rock Bottom, and that kind of would have been cool to kind of see that the disco ball come down and spinning around and just Ace and Paul playing that part together. So that would have been cool to see. And it was cool to see when they did Unplugged with that too. And they didn't do that when I saw them in '96. They had already dropped it by that time. But I've always liked this song. I don't love it. I like the song. I think the intro is cool.
And then between Rock and Roll All Night and Cold Gin.
Cold Gin.
Man, savage. All right.
You do not, in fact, want to rock and roll all night and party every day.
I do, just don't play the song.
Like, I want to rock and roll all night, but, like, I don't know, put on some Britney or something.
No, I didn't say that. Maybe put on like.
Oh, you
Deuce or
didn't need to
something.
say it.
I mean, if this was the Poison version of the song, it would clearly be number one.
Woof. Woof.
All right. Oh, pardon me. I'll cut that bit out.
Everybody take a moment to cough.
Right. Cough. All right. So, before we get to the number one song on Kiss Alive, I'm going to go through the ranking again, in order, as Andrew has decided our tiebreakers. So, coming in at last place was Firehouse. Right above it, Nothing to Lose. Then She. Followed by Let Me Go Rock and Roll, 100,000 Years, Got to Choose, Hotter Than Hell, Watching You, Black Diamond, Come On and Love Me, Strutter, Rock and Roll All Night, rated criminally low by people who hate America, Cold Gin, Rock Bottom, Parasite, and the best song on Kiss Alive, as voted by this illustrious panel of experts and Steve, Deuce.
You know what I can't stand about this song? I can't stand when people spell it wrong. It's D-E-U-C-E. So many times I see people spell the D-U-E. Come on, guys.
Yes.
Deus.
Come on, guys.
Hey,
Yeah.
I spelled it right. Neato.
So yeah, this is a weird song for me, and I'll tell you why. Oftentimes, as a Kiss fan, you will think of Kiss as Paul Stanley's band, and Paul Stanley is the one doing the heavy lifting of the band and being the main quality songwriter of the group. because you have all that Gene output. Gene has more filler songs than Paul does. Just
Agreed.
straight up. He has more filler songs and has written, way more weak songs than Paul has. So you tend to think of Gene as like a guy who's kind of cool with some fun bass lines, but not really the great songwriter. And then you remember that Deuce is a thing. And it's such an
It is a thing.
awesome, great, kick-ass rock song. Where all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I forgot Gene Simmons can write really good songs. And it's not just the Paul Stanley Band. Like, a song like Deuce completely justifies Gene Simmons as a songwriter, where it's just like, hey, this is just a kick-ass rock song with a great riff. This is just fun, it's got good energy, and it's a great concert opener. It's a fantastic song.
Yeah, I'm going to echo everything you just said. I remember when I saw them for the first time in '96 on the reunion tour, and this was the opener on the reunion tour. And I remember when that curtain dropped and you saw Gene, Paul, Ace, and Peter in makeup. I never thought that I would see, and they're playing Deuce, and I was like, "This is Kiss, this is Kiss." And then my life was forever changed. I mean, I was a Kiss fan at that time, but once you see Kiss live, it kind of takes you over the moon with your fandom of Kiss.
Well, I think the thing that's great about Deuce is that it actually works outside of Kiss, if that makes sense, where it's great with makeup Kiss, but, as someone who watched, Confidential and Extreme Close-Up a lot, seeing Kiss without makeup, it just works as just a kick-ass rock song. Like, period.
Agreed.
If you like kick-ass rock and roll, Deuce is a cool tune, because it's just a straightforward kick-ass rock song. There's, no frills. It's just like, hey, it's got fun energy. It's got Peter doing some goofy stuff with the cowbell live.
Some great ace solos in
Great
this one.
ace solo. Just it kicks ass. It is a
And it makes
kick-ass song.
and it makes no sense.
Oh, yeah,
I'm going to
it-
recite the lyrics for you. Get up and get your grandma out of here. What?
I mean, this song was one of the inspirations for the Lipstick song "The Flash," where I said, I'm going to write a song that has stupid lyrics that don't mean a damn thing, but it sounds really cool.
But it sounds cool.
Right, and that was the point, where, The Flash, the lyrical inspiration for that song was Deuce and I Am the Walrus by the Beatles, where it's like, here's just a bunch of random crap that doesn't mean anything, but it sounds cool.
I agree.
Any other comments from this illustrious panel? Steve, you haven't commented on Deuce.
I'm just like, to me, the lyrics make 100% perfect sense. I don't see why there would be any debate that this song is, Gene telling a woman and be like, hey, don't forget to, touch your man's privates.
Yeah, but what's grandma got to do with the song?
She shouldn't be there to watch it. That's inappropriate.
All right.
All right, well, yeah, I mean, any Kiss song, you should just assume is about Kiss getting laid. I am just a boy getting laid.
No, it wasn't about that. That's why no one purchased that album.
I love that album. That is the best Kiss album.
What's with this hero's journey shenanigans? Why isn't he getting laid all the time and partying?
Well, that's in part 2. He was going to get laid all the time. It was called War of the Gods, but that was actually a typo. It was supposed to be called War of the Bods.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that is Kiss Alive. Andrew, as a resident Kiss expert, how did you feel about the panel's ranking? Especially since you didn't do the ranking. Did you think our panel was accurate with ranking the album, or did you think we were full of shit?
No, I thought it was interesting to hear other people's opinions of how songs rank, so I appreciated it. I definitely disagree with where you put Got to Choose, but I thought it was cool. I mean, anytime we can get around it and talk about Kiss, I'm all about that.
Yeah. I mean, I disagree where, you anti-American communists ranked Rock and Roll All Night, but, whatever.
Listen, every time I go someplace and a Kiss song comes on, it's either Rock and Roll All Night or Beth. So both of those songs. I mean,
You mean the 2 best Kiss songs?
No.
All right, so we're going to get into this on the next episode, so spoilers for Steve. But I think Beth is one of the most beautiful songs in the history of humanity, and is probably the best thing Kiss has ever done musically.
I really only know the snake vomit version of Beth.
Yeah, so he only knows our punk version that we covered and doesn't actually know the song. So we'll see how he feels next episode. But I think that is just one of the best pieces of music ever done. But, we'll get to that next episode. So make sure you all tune in. But before we leave, some plugs. Andrew, where can we find you?
You can find everything to do with my podcast at kissmycollectibles.com. Make sure you follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and iTunes. And we're more of a visual podcast. I know you guys are audio, and thank the maker for that for today. But we do a lot of things with video on ours, so check out our channel, youtube.com/kissmycollectibles.
Yeah, for a podcast that showcases, like, look how cool all this merch is, it makes a lot more sense to be visual than us, like, we're just ranking, music.
Wait, did you call us ugly, though?
No.
No. No, we show a lot of things that have to do with videos. I mean, Kiss My Wax, we ran out of records to talk about, so Kiss My Wax kind of went into Kiss My Boots, and now we're talking about merchandise. So it's kind of your one-stop shop for everything, vinyl, toys, bootlegs, and more.
Nice.
All right, and we are Lipstick. You can find us on lipstickgeneration.com. That has all of our links to YouTube, iTunes, all that fun stuff. So just go to the main website, and then whatever else you want to follow, just click the links. It'll be way easier that way. Thank you all so much, and we look forward to ranking something awesome with you next week. Have a good one, folks.
Rock and roll!
Rock and roll!
All night.
Detroit!
And part of every day.
And click.